you hear a great piece of financial advice. You want to skip that morning coffee and you do a great job of it for 10 years. And so it's $4 in your pocket every single day over the course of that 10 years. And then you come across a tremendous transition. Maybe you're selling that family house. And sometimes a snap decision that you do quickly might cost you that 10 years worth of that cup of coffee. And all of a sudden, boom, it's out the window. My name is Michael Petraka, and this is your tip of the month from HAP Financial Group. So today we're going to focus on what is typically one of the biggest financial transitions that you're ever going to do in your life is selling or buying a home. So this is not an area I'm a particular expert on. So I wanted to bring in Caryl Cozin. Caryl I've worked with and has been a family friend for decades. So I just kind of want to get her perspective in terms of being a realtor. What is she seeing, and what are some of the things that we can focus on, or those one or two snap decisions that we might be able to avoid. So Caryl, if you want, just give us a little background on what you're seeing out there in the real estate market, and we'll kind of take it from there.
Will do. Thank you for inviting me. Yeah, real estate, as most people have probably seen over the last couple of years, has been quite chaotic. I think there's a little bit of lingo going around right now where interest rates, which were at their unprecedented rates in the last couple of years, are slightly rising. And we have to put that in perspective. What is now about 7.2% is, we can look back, like many people are probably listening to this call, can recall during the 80s, double-digit rates, one year as high as 17%. So when you put it all in perspective, really, the buying power is still there. What I see out there, I have to tell you, back to the rates for a second, this lingo that I was talking about is marry the house, date the rate. So we always know that whatever rate we lock in at, it is not a forever thing. I, for instance, probably refinanced so many times over the years, as do many people. But what we do see is values are definitely holding. For instance, in the town where I live, there would typically in a normal market be about 135, 140 homes for sale. There's 23.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So while rates remain historically low, the values are holding. There's very little inventory, and of the inventory that is sitting, I would say it's absolutely seven figures and above.
So let's say you're gonna sell your house, and obviously your goal is always trying to get as much money as
Yes.
possible.
Yes.
We're not trying to say like, oh, completely gut the kitchen and start from new. But
Right.
if is what is there, the one or two things that it's kind of foolish to pass up on that might be a small dollar amount but big bonus in terms of how much you should get a little extra for
Absolutely.
yourself.
Absolutely. Uh, First and foremost, and you'll hear this from anybody, declutter. Less is more. It's not going to only make your home look bigger, but it's going to allow it to be depersonalized and people can envision their life in that home. Remove as much as possible, even if you're going to take it with you eventually, put it into storage. It will afford you a better price for your home. There's no question. Keep on top of repairs, do things like, fresh paint on the walls, keep everything neutral. All the stories you hear about pictures and family memorabilia. I agree with it. I agree with it. You don't want anybody to think of that home as anything but theirs. But I will tell you one thing that people don't take into account, which I would say even today, if you're selling your home in 10 years from now, it would behoove you to run an OPRA report, an Open Public Records Act report with your municipality. Run over there, fill out a form. It doesn't cost you anything. And just make sure whether during your tenure in your home or the previous owner that there's no open permits that might prevent you from closing on your home one day. A lot of
Wow.
people don't realize that there are open permits on their homes when they come
Yeah,
to sell their home.
that's not so much of it's a nice little pleasant surprise that you walk into after the fact. Oh, I never even heard of that or thought of that.
Yeah, yeah, you don't want those open permits sitting out there that you're gonna be responsible for or will delay closing. It happens all the time, and then money gets put into escrow and, you don't wanna get into that.
How about on the buyer side? Is there
Yeah.
one or two things? It's a little tough because
Yeah,
obviously today's
yeah, it's
market,
very
buyers
tough.
don't have much wiggle room. But is
Mhm.
there anything you could do to kind of stand out?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I did wanna mention that with the craziness of those low interest rates and the demand, I think it was a pre and, uh, ongoing and post-pandemic thing where home was everything. Everyone was like everyone was Zooming, uh, each other. Everybody was, having office meetings on, Zoom calls and, uh, really virtual offices continued to be everything. So home is still everybody's desire to live in a good community with good schools and lots to offer in the community. So what I would say is, what started with lines out the door, you'd have an open lines. I had to hire people for open houses just to help. That's sort of stopped a little, and the reason that stopped is the MLS in New Jersey adopted a procedure which had never happened before, where we listed things as coming soon. Coming soon allowed the greater public to see, to give them a little time, and showing dates, first showing dates where appointments are scheduled, where you kind of get it all in one weekend, and then everybody has an opportunity. So that is still a little bit of the norm, but I would say that what might have been 10 offers on a home, this may be five now. It is difficult, but so you have to say to yourself, if you plan on staying in the home long term, if the community and the schools are exactly what you're looking for, and outweigh the amount you may be willing to pay over, then it was always going to be worth it. Real estate is a very personal experience, and when your children become a certain age, if that is the case, or you're downsizing and you need a certain type of lifestyle, it will never lose its value, at least in your personal circumstance.
It's very tough as a financial planner to hear that a little bit because I want everything to be about
Yeah.
spreadsheets and numbers and rate of return, but especially over the last few years, what I've kind of told people is, like you just said, this is a personal experience. This is your personal family existence. And if you have a 20, 30-year time horizon, this is my forever home, I do believe you should give a little bit of flexibility on price. Most other decisions, if this is a second property, if this is a rental property, then hey, then you got to be a little bit more strategic about it. But I certainly agree with you. You know, it's certainly, if we're going to have to pay a premium, it's got to hit that home feeling that this feels right. Um,
Right. And what will be in 30 years if you stay in your home for 30 years? Who knows? The people that paid those double digit interest rates in the 1980s, their homes have tripled in value. So it's in 30 years from now, your home may triple in value and you thought you overpaid.
So certainly, to kind of wrap up, if you're on the buyer side, try and think as long term as possible
Hmm.
and to get
Hmm.
the numbers behind you. On the selling side, like I mentioned before, we don't want to give up some easy one or two things that cost us 10, 20 grand,
Right.
So to recap, yes, we want to skip that cup of coffee as much as possible to keep that dollar in your pocket. But hey, when these big things come up, speak to a specialist, speak to an expert, because sometimes 2 minutes worth of advice might be 10, 20, $30,000. So again,
Exactly. The
thank you
last thing I would
oh,
say
sorry,
to you
sure.
also is hire an experienced agent. Hire an experienced agent. You may think that it's easy to sell your property in this market, but there's so much more that goes into it, including navigating appraisals and uh, understanding how to vet offers that may come in, because there's like a hierarchy of what matters. People are waiving various aspects of the home buying process in order to be competitive. So you sort of have to know how to vet offers that come in. It's a process in and of itself. So and then you want to secure lockbox on your home. You don't want strangers coming in and out of your home that can't be monitored by the security of a lockbox, which will tell me how long somebody was in there, when they arrived, when they left. and very critical in today's day and age.
Yeah, your big financial decisions, you don't want to cut corners. These
No,
aren't the times to like skip a dollar here, not speak to a specialist there. So I agree
exactly,
100%. Uh,
exactly.
thank you so much for joining us today. Of course,
My pleasure.
if anyone has any questions, always feel free to reach out. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.